at the BBC quit yesterday following accusations of bias at the British broadcaster. One complaint involved a speech by President Trump in 2020. Here are the details.
Two top leaders of Britain's BBC resigned on Sunday amid allegations of bias at the broadcaster, including over the editing of a speech by President Donald Trump. Director General Tim Davie, the BBC's most senior executive, quit after an internal memo leaked by the Daily Telegraph newspaper had cited a string of failings. That included coverage of the Israel-Hamas war, trans issues, and edits of a speech made by Trump in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021. The BBC's flagship Panorama show was found, according to the memo, to have edited two parts of Trump's speech together, so that it appeared he had encouraged the Capitol riot later that day. That documentary showed this part of Trump's speech.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
But in the Panorama episode, "We're Going to Walk Down to the Capitol" was shown cut together with other parts of his speech, including close to its end, where Trump said, "We fight like hell." Davie has led the BBC since 2020. He said he decided to leave after, quote, reflecting on the very intense personal and professional demands of managing this role over many years in these febrile times. The CEO of BBC News, Deborah Turness, also resigned Sunday. In an email to staff, she said, quote, "I want to be absolutely clear, recent allegations that BBC News is institutionally biased are wrong." Trump welcomed the departures, criticizing the two as very dishonest people. The leaked internal report had also said BBC Arabic had showed anti-Israel bias in its reporting of the war on Gaza, and that stories which raised difficult questions around trans issues have been suppressed by a small group of staff.
BBC News CEO Deborah Turness was in London to see her legal teams earlier today. She took questions from local media. Take a listen.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me.
Why did you fail to deal with the mistakes that were made?
And see my teams. Thank you so much for being here.
Do you think that the journalists are corrupt like President Trump says? Do you think the journalists
Of course our journalists aren't corrupt. Our journalists are hard-working people who strive for impartiality, and I will stand by their journalism.
Is there institutional bias at the BBC?
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
But why weren't the mistakes dealt with on Trump, on anti-Semitism, on women's rights?
I'm sure that story will emerge, but for now I'm going to go in and see our team.
BBC Chair Samir Shah also apologized for an error of judgment in editing the Trump speech. Shah said the BBC had reviewed the footage and acknowledged it should have been clearer about changes made to the original remarks. Shah wrote to British lawmakers, quote, "It is absolutely clear the BBC must champion impartiality." Meanwhile, the BBC said today it had received a letter from President Trump threatening legal action. The broadcaster said it will respond in due course. The Senate has agreed to advance a bill to end the government shutdown. Joining us to discuss is Brian Lieb, a political strategist and CEO of Henry Public Relations.